welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Sarah's Chill. For the very last time, we are saying goodbye to Sarah's Chill today. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. Never worry about safely storing your breast milk or formula again. Sarah's Chill was invented by a mom for moms and offers guaranteed convenience with their double-walled stainless steel container. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Milky's Nipple Nurture Balm is your organic and lanolin-free answer to sore or cracked nipples. But we will hear more from our sponsors a little later. But you can head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check out our sponsor page and see if you can give any of our sponsors your business, because they do make this podcast possible. And also at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, you can scroll down and enter your email address, and we will send episodes straight to your inbox every Monday. And now Dianne has our review of the week.
And this is more, it's probably not as much of a review as it is a question or a concern, but I thought that this would be great for today, considering what our topic is today. Mm-hmm. And this came through this week. So to our email at badassbreastfeedingpodcast@gmail.com. I'm a mom to a happy 13-month baby boy. We are bottle feeding during the day hours as soon as I get off of work. I'm strictly on demand as soon as I get home. I keep getting a hard time from doctors, dentists, and family because the fact that he doesn't sleep much during the night and that breast milk is sweeter than formula, so it affects teeth way more. Doctors will tell me he shouldn't even be on the breast anymore. Neither him or I are ready to wean off. Am I doing anything wrong? I'd like to get him and I a few more hours of sleep. This has been our sleep schedule since day one, if we can call it that. And this was, like I said, sent to me from email. And I think this is a great intro really to what we're going to talk about today, because first of all, I did answer her. I don't want you guys to think that I just left her hanging because I did answer her. And, I did tell her, breast milk does not cause cavities. And we've talked about this a lot and we've done episodes on this, but it still comes up all the time because it is one of those things that just does not go away.
Because the medical professionals don't listen to our podcast.
Right.
It's just you guys. So then you have to go and hear all this stupid advice and stuff from your doctors and your dentists.
But we don't need to be worried about, right? Wipe that right out of your brain.
Yeah,
that breastfeeding your baby at night is going to cause cavities, because that is not a thing. And there's tons of research to back that up. We're not just saying that because we want it to go along with our agenda. It really is true. There's a lot of research to back that up. And babies, we know babies are encouraged to breastfeed past a year. So that is one of the things that drives me crazy. If your pediatrician is telling you, oh, your baby should be weaned at a year, I'm sorry. The American Academy of Pediatrics says babies should breastfeed to 2 years. So the very entity that your pediatrician is part of says 2 years. So any pediatrician that's telling you 1 year is wrong. I'm sorry. Nobody should be encouraging you to wean regardless.
2 years or beyond.
Or beyond, yes. Or
so
beyond.
2 years at least.
At least, or beyond. What it comes down to is if you want to wean at a year and that's what works for you and your family, then great. If you do not, like this mama here, they're 13 months. She doesn't want to wean yet. He doesn't want to wean yet. There should be no pressure. It's nobody's business. It's not hurting her. It's not hurting her baby. There's no cavity issue. We wiped that out already. But the thing here that she wants to do is get her and her baby a little bit more sleep. And that's what this episode is going to be about today.
Well, it's going to be information about sleep.
Information about sleep. Yes.
Nobody's going to guarantee that everyone's going to sleep 8 hours straight every night, because for babies, that's not what they do.
But this is going to educate you more on what goes on with babies and sleep, because it seems to be a really black hole mystery of what happened, like what's going on with these little babies. So this is going to hopefully educate you a lot on what to expect with your baby and sleep. Yep. So I hope it's helpful.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes. And here's Rebecca Michi. Welcome to Rebecca Michi. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and talking with us today.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Everybody who is listening has heard me say the name Rebecca Michi a whole bunch of times. Always with, oh, by the way, we should get her on the podcast, and talk to her. And I'm saying her. I'm going to make sure your pronouns.
Yes, she, her.
She, her. Okay. And finally did it. Yay. So a little bit about how I know about Rebecca is that he's 10 now.
Wow.
But I know he was actually, so ever since he was born, he was a very sensitive guy, didn't sleep the way I saw babies sleep on TV. He, would cry when I put him down. He was, I didn't know what was going on. I was under this belief that sleep was just this thing that was normal and natural and that they would just do it. And you didn't have to do anything like breastfeeding, right? Breastfeeding is normal and natural. And then you just put them on there and then they just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward a few years, Exley is born now. And I just don't think that we're drowning. I don't know how to get Jack to sleep at night. He's up all night. We're just in a state of chaos. I mean, literally, when I think back, I was thinking this morning about this talk and I was thinking about those days and how dark they were and just how chaotic and anxious and all of that, the state of our house was in. And I had started looking into things like sleep consultants and stuff like that. And I was really afraid to reach out to anybody because it was so much like, there was so much of the cry it out and sleep training stuff out there. And I just thought, that doesn't feel right to me. I don't want to do this. And I just set out into the Facebook world. Does anybody know of a sleep consultant who doesn't do cry it out? And I think it was, because you and I were doing the MommyCon circuit at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's right.
We got connected. And that is when, I think like, we did, we worked really hard and we did all this. Honestly, what happened was I just learned from you. It was just, we just learned about sleep and babies. And I remember at the time you were like, I don't usually work with 3-year-olds. I usually work with babies. I don't know how well this is going to go. But man, that was like the magic wand. It was, I want to say magic wand because it was hard. But I mean, I think the thing that we did wasn't all these things that we had to do with Jack. It was us learning.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that what you see because you work with families, I guess, all day, right?
Yeah. So I work with families in many different capacities. For obviously all sorts of different ways that I work with families because as children sleep, it's all very different. Every family dynamic is different and every home setup is different. And so, it's figuring out the way that I'm working with families is figuring out 1, how the child is sleeping, 2, how that is an issue for the family, and then getting them the best possible sleep whilst being really realistic with what our expectations are going to be. A lot of the time when I'm working with families, it's saying, that's normal. That's great. Your child's sleeping normally. Yay. And because we have very unrealistic expectations of what is normal when it comes to a child's sleep, because we're comparing against our own and it's completely different.
Our own being adults.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember you saying that early on too. We were talking about Jack's personality, his temperament, just him, who he is as an individual. And you were like, he's not going to sleep 8 hours in a row, Abby. He's not going to. That's just, maybe sort of what they don't do that at that age. And this is a guy who might not do that.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of when I'm working with a family. One of the first things I'll have them do is take a temperament quiz for their child, because when I can see what the child's temperament is, I know sort of what really sort of, how it is that they are going to be sleeping. And with Jack, looking at his temperament, he was not this kiddo who was going to, ask to go down to sleep early and then sleep for sort of, 12 hours. He was not, you already knew that because he wasn't doing that. But I wasn't going to be able to get you that because that's just not who he is. And I think it's just not just with sleep. It's with so much of parenting. Right. When you work with a child's personality, you're not, one, trying to force them to do something that is impossible for them to do, which causes conflict. It means that when you're working with their personality, you're working at a pace that is comfortable for everybody. And you're going to get results. And that's really the main thing, is that we want better sleep. We don't necessarily want perfect. Yeah, we'd love perfect, but I think we want better sleep, but just ditch perfect, because, don't let good enough, perfect get in the way of good enough. And so we want sort of to get some better sleep, certainly, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. And so what is the, because I imagine a lot of people come to you and they say, how can I get my kid to sleep more?
Yeah.
How do I just get them to sleep more? How do I get them to sleep just for like 6 or 8 hours in a row? Just how do I do that?
Yeah. So many people will say, and so I will hear that so many people come to me and they'll say, yeah, so how can I get my child to sleep, have an easier time with sleep? How can I get them to sleep through the night, or whatever that looked like? And it really kind of depends on how their child is sleeping, because so often their child is actually sleeping normally. It is normal for a 3-month-old to wake many times during the night. Does it suck? Yes, it does, but it's normal. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a problem. It sucks that you're having to get up repeatedly through the night. That's no fun for anybody, but it's completely normal. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything that we can change there. Do you have an 18-month-old who is waking once, twice a night and needs resettling during the night? Again, that is normal. That's when you're looking at how children sleep. That is normal. And so I like to find out from the family what they're perceiving as the issue here. How do I get my child to sleep through the night? How do I get them to get this big chunk of sleep? Well, it may be that they just can't get that. It may be that they are not supposed to be getting that right now. Because of what's normal, they just can't do that. And so I like to find out what they're seeing as the problem. And then, I can help you with that. And that could be with helping to get your child really relaxed and unwound before they go to sleep, helping them get the best possible naps during the day so they're not overtired come nighttime, which makes it harder for children to sleep. And so there's many things that we can do, but the knowing that how their child is actually sleeping is the first thing for me to look at, to see actually if it's something that I can help them with. Because it may be, I'm not going to work with a family whose 3-month-old is waking once a night and they want to ditch that one wake up because I can't do that. And they probably need that wake up. I would imagine if they're only waking once a night at 3 months old, chances are they're going to get rid of that wake up completely by themselves when they're ready.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think that's one of the biggest things I think about people that have new babies and have never had babies before, is that the waking is tiring and it's exhausting again, but it is developmentally completely normal. And also when we say normal, it's necessary.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And that's what a lot of people will, I think, we're gauging their sleep by our own because of a couple of things. Is that so often we're asked as parents, when our children are really young, I'm talking days old. Oh, are they a good sleeper? And so we're thinking, oh no, I'm up like 7 times a night at least. So that's not good. So we think bad. Okay, well, it must be a bad sleeper. And then we sort of are getting all these pressures from outside of getting your child to sleep through the night. We're hearing pressures that they don't need to feed during the night once they hit insert whatever, crazy thing that you've heard, whether that's 6 weeks old, 12 weeks old, doubled their birth weight, reached 12 pounds, insert whatever. There's nothing out there to say when a child can sleep through the night or no longer needs to feed during the night. There's nothing scientific. There's nothing medical. There's nothing magical. There is nothing out there. But it's all this kind of pressure. And so we're thinking, well, my child shouldn't be sleeping. My child shouldn't be feeding during the night. They don't need to feed because you've heard from somewhere where in fact they do. It's really normal. It's really important that children are feeding during the night for so many reasons. And yeah, I think every single parent out there will agree. Night wake-ups are just, are not fun. And if one more person said to me when my kids were little, "Oh, you'll miss those wake-ups at some point. You'll miss them." And nope. No, I now have a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old. Not miss those wake-ups once.
No, nobody misses that. We have plenty of wakeful hours during the day.
Exactly.
I'm sure this came up when we were working together, but it was so long ago now. But I went to a pediatrician when Jack was a baby. He was really young because I left this pediatrician by the time he was 6 months old or something. So it was before that. And she said to me, I've said this on the podcast too, so people are going to probably know this story, but she said, how long is he sleeping? Mm-hmm. What's his longest stretch of sleep at night? And, this is like a highly sensitive breastfeeding through the night baby. And like, I'm embarrassed. I was embarrassed and like afraid to tell her that it was like not more than 45 minutes or something. I thought I'd get in trouble or, they'd be like, "Oh my God, that's not okay." And she said, I don't know. I don't remember what I said, but she said, oh, that's odd. He should be sleeping 12 hours a night by now. She said, this lady said 12 hours. 12.
That is...
And it makes me so upset because there are more and more people coming to her and she's telling this information to, and pediatricians across the country are saying things like this, not just pediatricians, but, people say these things, which makes people feel nothing except that something is wrong with their child.
Yeah. Or they're doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong if my child should be sleeping for 12 hours and not needing to feed when you're only getting such a short period of time? It's not as if you were, let's say, getting 11 hours and then you're thinking, "Oh, I should be getting 12. Well, we're an hour. Yeah. That's okay. I think we can."
Right. Oh, it's just an hour off.
Yeah. If it's so vastly different, you feel that something's wrong with my child. Something's wrong if they're needing to feed all that time. What's wrong with my milk? Why are they, is something wrong there? What's wrong with me? Why can I not do this? Why can I not? And it really drives me mad when pediatricians or random people in the supermarket or the internet will say that, your child at whatever, insert whatever, should be sleeping for 12 hours because studies show this not to be the case. There was a study that came out last year that is really, really interesting. And it's actually a really great study because of the amount of people that they studied on this, that at 3 months old, only 16% of children are classed as sleeping through the night. And sleeping through the night is 6 hours consecutive sleep. Mm-hmm. So so it's really normal not to be getting that. That's the normal here. It's abnormal if your child is sleeping for a 6 hour or longer stretch at 3 months old. And it stays kind of really low. And next is sort of like is 8 months old. We're looking at then 22% who are sleeping for a 6 hour stretch or longer. So again, even then, 8 months old, it's still really, really low. It's still really low what the amount of children who are sleeping for a longer stretch. And I wish that pediatricians would just get up to speed with this because what they're saying is false. And I think what's happening is that we know, there's this 16% of children who are sleeping at 3 months are sleeping for a 6 hour stretch or longer. There are some who are sleeping for a 12-hour stretch. There just will be. And it seems to be that because some can, it's presumed that all can. And so we don't really do this with anything else when it comes to, infants' development. There are some children who are walking at 7 months old. Mm-hmm. There are some who don't even start to walk until they're over 18 months old, and both are normal. But we don't send a 7.5-month-old to see a physical therapist because they're not walking, and some are. Well, they could be walking. We know there's so much more that goes into a child being able to walk than just the age. But it seems to be that for sleep, we presume that because some can, all of them can. And it's just like that developmental stage of walking or crawling is a real big window of what's normal. And that's if you just look at the sort of the development part. Then there's sort of everything else that goes in, the amount of milk that they're getting, the sleep environment, attachment. There's all these other things that are being sort of thrown in there, which are also going to impact how your child sleeps.
Yeah. And I do think breastfeeding does get thrown under the bus a lot with that too, where it's like, well, you need to wean.
Yeah.
Your baby would sleep longer if you would just be breastfeeding less throughout the night.
Yeah. I don't see I don't know. It's very often blamed for your child is needing to, you need to stop, or that's why you're getting challenging sleep. And I don't really, is it because we can't see how much milk your child is exactly getting? Is that the reason why? I think it's because you end up feeding during the night. You will, because that's how your child will get down to sleep. It's a no-brainer what you're going to choose. Are you going to choose the path of least resistance and just breastfeed your child? Or are you going to potentially be up for an hour, 2 hours, rocking, pacing, just laying them down, rubbing their back? What are you going to choose? You're tired, you're sleep deprived, you know you're going to be up in another hour or so. It's just a no-brainer which one you're going to choose here. You're going to choose the path of least resistance because sleep is one of our basic human needs is sleep. And we're not really sure, to be honest, why, but it is. And so when we are at this point of, when you're being woken during the night, this has been going on for a period of time. And as well, you're still healing from childbirth. You're still trying to create an attachment. And there's all the other stuff. Your hair's falling out. Your nipples are hurting. Bits hurt that you didn't know to hurt. You're just constantly sweaty. And there's all this, and your relationship's kind of like all kind of crazy. It's just everything. And then you're just going to breastfeed because your child back to sleep, because you are sort of preserving yourself the same way that if you were really, really thirsty and there's a glass of water and you're really, really thirsty and you wake up in the middle of the night and you think, oh my God, I'm so thirsty. But I don't want to drink because I don't want to have to get up in 3 hours to use the bathroom. Of course, if you're really thirsty, you're just going to drink because it's your basic human need. Sleep is that thing as well. It's a basic human need. You're going to take the path of least resistance because you need the sleep. And the flip side of that, your child also needs the sleep. So by just breastfeeding them, you're helping everybody here. Everybody is going to be getting the best sleep, especially in those early days. It's where everything's just sort of feels so out of control. Don't add something else there. Trying to be, I've got my child has to be independent. I shouldn't be breastfeeding them to sleep. I should be aiming for this drowsy but awake. And it's just added pressure that you don't need.
We'll be right back with more from Rebecca Michi after a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Fairhaven Health. If you are struggling with sore nipples, you need pain relief fast. And when sore nipples turn to cracked nipples, forget about it. It's enough to want to call it quits. Damaged nipples can cause real problems with successfully breastfeeding your baby. Check with a lactation consultant that your baby is getting a good latch and get some Milky's Nipple Nurture Balm. Nipple Nurture Balm is formulated to soothe, protect, and heal sore or cracked nipples. This nipple balm is made with organic herbal ingredients and combined with natural moisturizers to help provide relief to heal affected areas and even prevent cracks from reappearing. Nurture Nipple Balm alleviates the discomfort so the joy can be restored to your special bonding time. It is safe for both parent and baby, and there's no need to wipe it off before breastfeeding. Head to fairhavenhealth.com, that's FAIRHAVEN health.com, and use code BADASS for 15% off of your purchase. And today's episode is also brought to you by Sarah's Chill. Never worry about safely storing your breast milk or formula again. Sarah's Chill was invented by a mom for moms and offers guaranteed convenience with their double-walled stainless steel container. A little bit of water and ice is all you need to keep your breast milk or formula safe for 20 hours. No more lugging around chunky coolers and dozens of containers. You can pump and double pump all day into one sleek container. The chillers are dishwasher safe, airport friendly, and last a lifetime. Use it for wine, coffee, or any of your favorite beverages or even snacks when you're done breast or bottle feeding. Head to sarahschill.com, that's CERESCHILL.com, or check them out at Sarah's Chill on Instagram. And use code BADASSBreastfeeders25 for 25% off your purchase. And like I said, Sarah's Chill sponsorship is ending, so make sure that you get in on this code, Badass Breastfeeders 25 at sarahschill.com for 25% off your purchase of a chiller. And so you can find more about our sponsors at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. You can find the promo code under our show notes at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. Our show notes will also include further information about things that we talk about in this episode. And you can find our breastfeeding resources, all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your very own one-on-one online lactation consultation with Dianne. And now let's get back to more from Rebecca Michi. Yeah, and the fact that the baby goes back to sleep so much faster nursing than rocking and pacing and all of this tells me that there's some sort of, that it's the quickest way to get the baby back to sleep, kind of tells me then that's maybe like biologically, like how they go to sleep, with that suckling motion is soothing and being close to the parent. And, like that tells me that, maybe that is the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Because your child just probably wants to go back to sleep as well. If they don't want to go back to sleep, they're awake. And it's not
they're
sort
not
of
going
that,
to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that sort of time where they're just really awake. It's not that they're being sort of like they're half asleep or anything like that. They're just awake and and you'd look at them and you're like, oh, well, you're awake now. You know when they need to be awake and you know when they want to be back asleep. And yeah, that's it. Breastfeeding just is really great for helping children to sleep for, so many reasons. It helps you sleep as well. And it's just, it is so often thrown under the bus that you shouldn't be breastfeeding at nighttime.
Yeah, I think it's just seen as disposable. Like there is well, formula fills the belly more. It makes them tired. It'll help them sleep longer. Like put some formula in the bottle, put some rice cereal in the bottom. Let's really make them groggy and do, and do this. And breastfeeding, well, it's not that important. So we'll just move that to the side because this will help them sleep. And that's really not actually safe, for a child that's so young.
Yeah, not at all. And children need to be waking up. I mean, a child doesn't even get into a deep sleep until they're over 12 weeks old, because waking up is what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Because it reduces the risk of SIDS if they are sort of bouncing around in those lighter sleep cycles. So actually waking often is actually a really good thing, because it's really good. It's just a very healthy thing to do. I know it doesn't feel it for you, maybe not for you, but for your child, it's actually a very healthy thing to be doing, to be waking often.
Right. And waking and keeping in those lighter states of sleep and not going into those super deep sleeps, like you said, is a SIDS is a protective factor, which is why breastfeeding is also a protective factor. And formula can be a SIDS risk because it does put them into those deeper sleeps.
Yeah. And that is well why your child sleeping in a different room is also increases the risk of SIDS, because when you're close to your child, you're in tune with them. As you know, when you're bed sharing with your child, when you watch a breastfeeding mother bed sharing with her child, just how in tune together they are. It's just fascinating. Just sort of watching, not that I don't sort of like creep into people's houses and watch.
No, these are all sleeping. People who have signed this kind of, they're in a laboratory, decided to be a part of a research project. You're not sitting in your window.
I'm not creeping on people out here. But it's fascinating watching a mother and breastfeeding child sleep together, just how in tune they are, their breath rate, their heart rate, the way that the mother will sort of kind of cocoon the child. It's just like, that is very normal. That when you look at it and you see that and you're like, wow, look how we've evolved to sleep this way. Yeah. This is really, really normal. And it lowers the risk of SIDS by doing this, having your child, whether they're in the bed with you or in like a bassinet right next to you, having them sort of the more space. Yes, it means that your child may sleep for longer stretches. You may sleep for longer stretches, but that's not always the safest thing to do.
Yeah. And one of the things that she said to me after she said that Jack should be sleeping for 12-hour stretches was, so I don't even think I asked the question, but she just went into her kind of recital, her like whatever she was supposed to say to all the people. She said, okay, so in order to get him to sleep at night, you're going to you're going to, put him in the room and close the door and walk out and just, leave him alone for 1 minute the first night.
Mhm.
Don't go in. Just leave him crying, just leave him there. And then the next night you do it for 2 minutes. And then we're supposed to like build up to something or something. And I said to her, I was like, he's actually in a bassinet next to my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And she went, oh, okay. Well, she had no idea what to say then about that. And I didn't know what to say either. Here I am, this new parent who I just thought he's so young. I was like, I just had him in a bassinet because I didn't think that I didn't feel safe leaving him in another room he was just newborn. He was a newborn. So I figure I just thought all people just kept their newborn right here.
Well, they do. The American Academy of Pediatrics suggests sleeping in the same room as your child for between the first 6 and 12 months.
Okay. But that's funny because they also say that you should breastfeed for up to 2 years, but then you also have them saying you need to stop because, of such and such.
Yeah, so, you need to do this, but you also need to, you need to breastfeed, but you also need to stop breastfeeding.
Right. Yes, exactly. Because that's interfering with everything. Yeah. So when you have people who are, they want to get more sleep, they're being told that their baby should be sleeping these longer stretches. They want to be sleeping longer stretches. They're not. And then you have people who say, okay, well, you should, just leave them, you should leave them to cry. You should, do all of these training mechanisms to try to get them to sleep. What do you say about that?
So, I mean, sleep training is totally a thing. And I'm really interested. I'm going to go a little bit of a tangent here that I'm going to come back. But I'm really interested in where the history of sleep training comes from. Where does it come from? Because this is not something that we've been doing for, thousands of years. This is not
did it
something
come from? Yeah, I wonder, did it come? Because I feel like it came with the 40-hour work week. Did we need to get babies on our schedule? Like, come on, baby. I need to get up in the morning. I need to go make the money, which people, in this capitalist nation, people do. We have people working endless hours. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, and you're very right there. The earliest thing I can find on actually sleep training is, and it's kind of really early on. It's kind of real mixed bag of what you kind of see here. But I think it was a book from 1896 that suggested doing that and it was really, I almost cried when I read it, to get your child ready for bed at the beginning of the night, which would be 6 p.m., one of those sort of really strict 6 p.m. bedtime for an infant. And this was from about 6 weeks old. Get them ready for bed, put them in bed. Don't go back in there until morning time. And you're like, what? What? A 6-week-old? You're suggesting that they're just in their room. Just leave them. Just, doesn't matter. Just leave them be. It's just like
they'll be fine. They'll take care of themselves.
Well, so I think some of this is very kind of Victorian with children should be seen and not heard kind of thing. And as well, with the having to work, that pressure to work, and I need to get as much rest as I possibly can. When we're tired, then we don't function as well. Of course not. And if we're up all night with our children, we're not functioning as well when we're in when we're working the next day. So that's definitely part of it. So I'm really sort of, where did this actually come from, and why is it still a thing? Why is it still a thing? Yes, because if you, a lot of, my child needs help getting to sleep. They're waking up during the night. They need help getting back down to sleep. So this is kind of a problem. Yes. And it can be, I'm a children's sleep consultant. I do help families sleep train their children, but not by nowhere near using any cried out. But if your child can only fall asleep a certain way, then chances are they're going to need that during the night when they wake. Now, it's normal for humans to wake. Humans wake between 2 and 10 times a night. Waking up is normal for every single human on the planet. So don't ever think of a wake up is an issue. It's not. It really, really isn't. But sometimes the getting back to sleep part can be. If we struggle to fall back asleep, if you have insomnia, you struggle to fall back asleep. So the falling back asleep part can be, that's where sort of it could be an issue. The waking up part isn't. But if you're requiring something to get to sleep, you'll require that to get back down to sleep. So this is where if my child can get themselves to sleep at the beginning of the night, leaving them for a duration to cry, then, or to fuss or whatever, then they'll be able to get to sleep. Then they'll be able to do that during the night. It's all this sort of like, yeah, well, but what about when they're hungry? Oh, no, they wouldn't be hungry if they can get themselves to sleep. No, hunger then suddenly just disappears. And it's just like, I don't understand that. I have so many issues with cry it out. And that's one of them, is that just suddenly now presuming, well, because they can get to sleep, they don't actually need a feed. They may do. But cry it out does work for some children. And it actually works really well for some children. But the majority of children, I would say it doesn't work for, simply because when children are crying, there's a reason why they're crying. And for some, if you lay your child down, you've gone through it, you've got them ready for bed, and you lay them down, and they're just kind of rolling around. Let's say you've got like a 9-month-old, and they're just kind of rolling around in the crib, and they're just kind of, vocalizing, but not necessarily crying. Or maybe they'll sort of be fussing a little bit, and you don't feel that, okay, I don't feel actually that they're asking for any help now. I think they're doing okay. I see this kind of behavior maybe when they're playing and they're awake. Okay. And then after however long, 6 minutes, they fall asleep. Well, okay, you did do cry it out because you did the exact same thing as if your child was freaking out. You did the exact same thing. You did cry it out, but it worked. It was easy and it was manageable, and you could do it. So then there's those kiddos, very few and far between. I don't ever see those children, but apparently they exist. They are out there. Then there's the other kiddos who are a bit more like, if you'd have tried this with Jack and not to, and my eldest, that I knew that this was a similar thing. You would go through your routine, do everything else the same as that kiddo who's just going to just roll around and just sort of, be quite happy for 6 minutes, then fall asleep. You'll lay them down, and within a split second, it's the real big, quick, urgent cry. It's not what do we do? Oh, look, I'm in here. This is kind of, it's interesting. There's no gradual kind of ramp up. It's, oh my gosh, what the heck are you doing to me? And then it's, I need help. Oh my God, I can't do it. What's happening? I need help. I'm tired. I need help. I need to get sleep. And they begin to, what happens is that when it's that big, kind of real big urgent cry, whether that happened within seconds, that would have happened with Jack and my eldest, or it ramps up to that, can sometimes take 20 minutes to get to that big urgent cry. But when you're at a big urgent cry, think about what that big urgent cry is telling you. That's the cry that makes you drop everything and jump out of bed before you're even awake cry. It's that real kind of like panicky, oh my gosh, something's really wrong. When your child is crying like that, they're panicking. And the fight or flight is then triggered, and they're panicking because they're asking for help and they're not getting it. And so they're panicking. Nobody's falling asleep when you're panicking. Nobody. No. There's nobody who is then, if you're gone for a bit of a jog and you're running through the woods and you're having it's like, oh, the sun's shining, it's really nice. And then you see a bear, and this bear starts chasing you, and you're running really fast, and you find a cabin in the woods, and you get in there and you lock the door and you think you're safe. You're like, oh wow, I ran really fast away from that bear. I'm really tired. I'm going to go to sleep right now. No, who knows how many hours you'd be awake for before you'd be able to sleep, because there's that panic. That panic, that's how your child feels when they're that big urgent cry and they're left for a period of time. They are not sleeping. Sometimes we may see a child who's been left like that fall asleep. They do that out of exhaustion, and then within about 10 minutes, they're awake again because they just fell asleep out of sheer exhaustion. They're still panicking. Which has then woken them up again, and then they're at it again for another who knows how many hours. So that cry it out, there is the potential that your child is going to get to a panicked cry, and nobody's going to be sleeping after that. And if we're leaving your child and we're ignoring them when they're crying and they're asking them for help in the name of teaching them to fall asleep, what really are we teaching them? We're teaching them that we're not going to be there for them when they're asking for help. Do we want to teach our children that? No, of course we don't. I want my kids to know that I'm there for them, whether they are 3 months old, 3 years old, 13 years old or 23 years old, that I am going to be there for them to help them and support them whenever they need me. And even if now, like my 18-year-old, it was obviously just as I was falling asleep last week, one night, my 18-year-old comes upstairs and just says, have you just got time for a chat? And I'm just like, yeah, of course. Just give me a couple of minutes. I'll be downstairs. Yeah, because that's when teenagers want to talk.
Right. They're wide awake. Yeah.
And so it's just like, yeah, no, and you need me now. I'm going to be here for you. Yeah. Am I going to sort of like be mumbling and grumbling about it tomorrow? Probably. But but we'll get it. We'll deal with it. It's fine. And that's what I want my kids to know, is that I'm going to be there for them when they need me. And that is just because they're teaching them to fall asleep means I've got to ignore every other need that they have. No, every other need comes kind of before the sleep. Now, that's not to say, oh, well, if my child is that real kind of quick, urgent crying child, that there's nothing I can do to get better sleep. There's so much we can do to get the best possible sleep. But that's not one of the things that you want to do.
Right.
So, there's lots that we can do, but that seems to be the default setting for anyone when it comes to suggesting more sleep, more independent sleep, whatever. We think that sleep training is cried out. It's not necessarily. When I'm working with families, what I like to do is I like to get the best possible sleep without any sleep training whatsoever. And then if the parents of family want to do some sleep training at that point, once we got some better sleep, then we can do. But the techniques that I use are very, very gentle, where we're really slowly, gradually getting less and less and less involved. So if you're rocking a child to sleep, that we can work on slowing down the movement, that we can look at sort of these things. A lot of times when it comes to a child who's breastfeeding to sleep, we kind of work on everything else. We're still breastfeeding to sleep, but we're working on relaxing before going down to sleep. We're working on making sure we're not getting so overtired during the day, creating a really great, positive sleep environment. All of those things, and not going to suddenly make your child sleep through the night, but they may get you some longer stretches between those feeds. That's then dropping feeds during the night, is if you're going, as you were, that 45 minutes. If now we're going an hour and a half between feeds during the night, you've dropped half your nighttime feeds. We've not got it perfect. We've not done actually anything with nighttime feeds or anything with during the night. We've worked on everything else, but that can get us better sleep at nighttime. So I like to look at everything else first. If we can avoid doing sleep training, that is my goal, is to not actually do that. But work on everything else first, get the best possible sleep, and then see, is this good? Are you happy with this? And if you are, great. If you're not, then okay. Do we need to be looking again at what's normal? Do we then need to we can probably do some sleep training here if we need to, but it's going to look very different from what you think it's going to look like.
Yeah. And the benefit, I think, of this podcast, of me being the one to interview you, is that I'm interviewing you, but I've also been your client.
Yes.
So when you're talking about these things, it's like bringing up so many memories. Mm-hmm. Because I remember reaching out to you and those nights, that we had gotten ourselves, and I recommend not delaying the way we did. Just like reach out for help to anybody, because we had really dug ourselves into a really big hole. Mm-hmm. Where nighttime had become such a stressor. I mean, I had built up to, I was having, anxiety at night, and
mm-hmm.
So was Jack, of course.
Yeah.
Josh and I, my husband, were we were getting very angry at night, frustrated mm-hmm. with Jack, and it just became this, never ending daily horror show.
Yes.
Where, he of course was not going to go to sleep in that environment, and mm-hmm. we had no idea what to do. And when we first started working with you, I was surprised at how much we started doing that had nothing to do with going to sleep.
Yes.
That we were looking at, the daytime. And mm-hmm. this is when we started doing those siestas.
Yes.
And I realize now that we don't use that word anymore, but it's so ingrained in our family that when we feel the energy coming up real high for a long time, we're like, all right, let's come on over here and we'll do something, sit down for a little while. And I remember you explaining it like rungs on a ladder.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting ramped up and you're kind of on like the 6th rung and you never come down throughout the day and you're just coming up and up and up and up, then you're on the top rung and you have to come all the way down.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so for some children, they're kind of quick to get up that ladder.
Yeah.
And others will just kind of slowly, and they'll only make it to the 3rd rung by the end of the day anyway. So unwinding is a huge part of
But
sleep.
not just before bed.
Yeah.
Like throughout the day, so that you're not at the ending the day, or even just over time, I've realized that we've all learned how to just come down from being really worked up, recognizing those signs inside of our bodies that show us how we know we're relaxed or when we know we're not relaxed.
Yeah.
And we worked so much with Jack, because he's one of these kids who was like up the ladder, real fast. And then even at noon, if it was the middle of the day, we'd say, all right, we're going to do, a sit down thing.
Yeah.
Where we would bring the energy level down. And I think that overall, just in his life, so much benefit has come from that.
Oh, definitely. We all need it. We all need to have sort of a little bit of downtime. And this is something that we'll even do even with infants, is a sort of a winding down as need be, because overstimulation is going to impact sleep for all of us, whether we're adults or we're 3 years old or we're 3 months old. The brain being overly stimulated makes it hard to sleep. And though we have bedtime routines and nap time routines, so for some of us, those are not enough to be able to completely relax and unwind. And so if something is really overly stimulating, and it doesn't mean you have to avoid the overly stimulating things, because a lot of times those are the really fun things as well. So it's not that we can't do that because it's so overly stimulating. It's that let's do this, but we need to make sure that we have the time to relax after, or before we're going to try for a nap, or before we're going to try for bed, or all of those, that we've got this little bit of downtime so that we can just sort of like just unwind a little bit, and then we can start again. So that at the end of the day, we are not just like a complete sort of like, so much energy, because as children are overstimulated, let's throw in a bit of overtiredness there as well, because they've been so overstimulated that they will struggle to fall asleep, remain asleep, definitely, but they really struggle to unwind. It's as if you've given them like a can of Red Bull, 3 espressos, 2 tablespoons of sugar at bedtime. It's just like,
that was exactly the other thing too. And I told you this at the time, but he would get all worked up. Here comes nighttime and he's all worked up. He's running around. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we didn't do enough today. He hasn't gotten all his energy out. So we were doing like wrestling. We were like making it so much worse. We were doing all these things and you're like, no. And I had to learn like, that's how you recognize tiredness in kids. Yeah. Is they don't like in adults, we're just like, we go like sagging into the couch. We can't keep our eyes open. Kids are like, like they had a Red Bull. They're just like running around and it looks like they have so much energy, but they're actually overtired.
Definitely. Yeah. And so the way that I remember that we started doing this was we started from when you woke up in the morning. This is when we started like, okay, to prevent this happening at night, we're starting first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we did. We were looking at your entire day and ways of just sort of like, just being able to relax and unwind. Nothing to do with sleep really, but that really, really helped him so much, didn't it? Just to be able to not be that big bundle of energy at the end of the day. It was just so much easier.
And learning how to recognize those signs that he was getting tired, those signs, before the delirium hits in, and learning. And I think, we know it's funny to me now. It's not funny. I was such a testament to like, the work that that you're doing and that the misinformation we have about sleep is, nighttime is a non-issue around here. Like it is a non-issue. They go to bed. They don't question it. Sometimes Jack is like, I don't want to wait. I want to go now. I'm tired. It's just a complete, that is like the least, it used to be the most horrific time of day. And now it is the least eventful time of the day. And I remember as well, we were, what was I going to say? There was something else we were doing. Well, I don't know. I'll come back to Jack when I think, but we also were working with Exley because then here comes Exley. He's getting older. And then he's, it doesn't matter. We don't need to get into it. But one of the things that you said, which was really helpful to me because me being like, no, nursing, you have to breastfeed all the time and you always breastfeed and don't question your child's need to breastfeed at night. And you're like, yeah. Yeah. But like Exley, he was like, he was a toddler, I think at the time. And you're like, because he would wake up at night and then I would kind of pull him over to me and I would nurse him. And you're like, wait a minute. So you're like changing his position, like pulling him towards you, like all of this, like he's stirring a little bit, but even just pulling him over to nurse, you're waking him all the way up, like try, and this is where I think some of this is the sleep training, right? That some of the techniques that you try. So instead of immediately, and I'm not talking to you guys, if you have, a newborn or, a tiny baby, they're probably right there by the nipple anyway. So. But you have a toddler who's kind of rolled away and they're starting to wake up, you suggested like, kind of patting his back or kind of like, shaking him a little bit to see if he could go back to sleep and get himself back to sleep without me having to all the way wake him up.
Yeah.
To nurse again. And, that was like a very helpful thing to be like, okay, yeah, I don't have to be,
Yeah.
Breastfeeding doesn't have to always be the answer, especially as they grow up. They can learn other ways to fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly. If it doesn't work, he's just going to wake up. And it's super easy to do that, to give it a go and just to kind of see, because we bounce around through, deep sleep cycles to dream sleep and up and down all night. And in fact, we don't spend much of our night in a deep sleep. We are in a lighter sleep the majority of the night. Which means that in that sort of lighter sleep, we will sort of move around a little bit more. Deep sleep, we don't. But with our lighter sleep, we will sort of, you can tell when someone's in a light sleep. They can make noise, they'll move around a little bit. But they may get back down into a deep sleep. You never know. But you can help them get back down into a deep sleep if you need to. But it doesn't, I suggest going, starting small. Is hand on the back enough? Nope. You'll know within seconds. It's not as if you need to be there for minutes and minutes and minutes. You'll know within seconds. If not, maybe start jiggling them a little bit or patting their back a little bit. Is that helping? Add a bit more. Add more and more and more and more as you need to. Say you'll do this fairly quick. You'll know if what you're doing is helping or not. This way, you're not over helping during the nighttime. You're giving your child the exact help it was that they needed in order to get back down to sleep. And if it ends up that you need to pick them up and feed them or shuffle them over and to feed them, then that's what they needed. That's and you gave them then the support and help that they needed. But it may be they didn't need to feed at that point and that they were actually able to get back down into a deeper sleep. What we're then doing is we're creating a habit of coming into a lighter sleep, not waking up fully, and then getting back down into a deep sleep. So we're creating that as a habit. So even though you were there needing to be helping, it doesn't mean you're always there to be needing to be helping. And as well, if you're getting sort of your child moving them over, latching them on, then you're going to be waking them up quite a bit. So there's lots that we can do. And that's sleep training, but you wouldn't really call that sleep training because we think sleep training is doing the cry
right
out.
Exactly. We think of sleep training as just these really harsh kind of things that we don't want to do that make us sit in the other room and listen to crying.
Exactly. But we're teaching more independent sleep skills, even though it doesn't feel like we're teaching more independent sleep skills.
Right. Yeah.
But we are. I mean, and there's so many things. If you are like feeding during the night, that may work. That may not work. That's kind of hands-on. Another thing that I like to do with families who are breastfeeding is, especially again with these older children and toddlers, is to first off, and for just one feed a night, maybe the second feed during the night, definitely not after 4 a.m., but for the maybe second feed of the night would be, if you're bed sharing especially, to sit up to feed. And I know it's a bit more miserable because it just takes so much more energy, but to sit up to feed. But for your child, that's also not as easy for them because they had to be moved and they've had to, and then I suggest as well, then you swap sides, then you start fidgeting a little bit. So you're making that, you're not saying, I'm not going to feed you. You're not saying, no, I'm not going to feed you at this point. You're still offering it to them, but it's not as easy for your toddler. It's not as easy for them to get to be feeding because they're just not rolling over and feeding. And honestly, I worked with a family it was a few years ago now. Mom was pregnant and, she was bed sharing and she didn't want to change the bed sharing. She didn't want to do, stop breastfeeding, anything like that. And so we carried on. But her toddler was waking up like 6 or 7 times a night. And she was just like, I'm just beginning to worry for when the baby arrives. I can't be doing this. And the way we got her down to no night feeds a night by just doing that, sitting up to feed. We eliminated all night wake ups by night feeds by doing that, by just sitting up to feed. Now it wasn't quick. And again, that's the kind of, we think sleep training. Oh, apparently it's just 3 nights and then we're done. No, it wasn't. It was months that it took us to get there. And we took one feed at a time and we worked on one feed at a time. And then we were still doing the, as you were with the hands-on kind of thing as well. And we eliminated all night feeds and all night wake ups by doing that. So we were sleep training. Definitely. We were teaching more independent sleep skills, but it was such a different way of doing sleep training. And it worked really well.
And I think of the sleep training too, again, like all of this where I was said before, how surprising it was to me that how much of the work had nothing to do with going to sleep at night. It was so much of the day and the surrounding environment. And I remember we did so much work on the room, just the room itself, the room, like the living room first. Yeah. Dimming the lights. Because we talk about like melatonin in order to go to sleep, it needs to be, it's only produced in a dark room, right? When there's no light. I didn't know that. I did not know that, So then, so we still to this day have the setup that we had then. They're 10 and 7, but we still do the exact same thing. And, just making it, getting a special lamp that was the only light that was on, preparing all the other rooms before we went to bed so that we wouldn't have to turn the lights on when we went in, to lay down. And also the timing of the naps, I remember, became a big thing. Yes. The second nap of the day or when he got down to 2 naps or something, and making sure that it wasn't too late and waking. We got down to how long the sleep cycles were, timing the sleep cycles, and going in to wake him up from a nap, but in a special way that where it would only happen if he came up out of that deeper sleep. There was a whole method of how I would go into the room and wake him up. Yeah. Yes. And this is sleep training. Yeah. We were doing all of these interventions and nobody was crying. Nobody was left alone. Nobody was anything, but it was all of these things that were just, interventions that helped, for him to just get the best sleep at night and to be able to go into, not get overtired, go into it to sleep, with his body relaxed and ready to go in and out of, into the deeper sleep cycles. Yeah,
and it worked great for him. And you were super comfortable with everything that you were doing. And, I kind of think that even though when we were working together, I would have said, well, we didn't sleep train, but we did. But we didn't sleep train because we didn't do anything, any of that. Okay, just getting him ready for bed and putting him in his room and,
walking away.
Yeah, walking away and just, we didn't really sleep train, but we did. We taught him to sleep more independently by looking at everything else. And And it was hard. All those steps that you worked on, because there were a lot of things that we were looking at. There was a lot of things that we worked on. They were hard because we're changing the way that we do things, and change is hard for humans. So we would change the way. And so it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as, it could have been if you'd have thought, okay, the only way I can help. Not that he would have learned to have slept anyway. Even if you tried just putting him in the room and leaving, that wouldn't have worked. He would have cried for 10 hours, I think, if you'd have tried that. But it doesn't really, I don't know. That's my aim, is to work on all of those things to get us the best possible sleep. Those are the things I like to work on first. Let's get the best possible sleep, and let's see where that then leaves us. Because after doing that, we could have eliminated all night feeds and all night wake ups by doing that stuff. If then we need to, then we need to. Then we need to look at other things. But those are the things that are manageable, because most of it's during the day. When we're looking at most things that we need to do during the daytime, we've got the energy to do that. It's just sort of as well, when you think about, I don't have the energy. I'm so exhausted. I don't have the energy to deal with the nighttime things. I can't be up any more than I already am. Well, let's see if we can eliminate nighttime wake ups by doing everything else, working on the daytime stuff, working on everything else. That's going to help you get better sleep at nighttime without working on the nighttime.
Yeah. And it just makes me think, like, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it makes me think of how much just learning those things still affects us today. Because we're a homeschool family, so we don't I don't have to wake them up. Plus I also wake up at the butt crack of dawn. So they still do that, but I don't really have to wake them up very often. But the times that I have had to wake them up, I'm very intentional about it. I'm like, no, you're not going to just go in and start shaking them, because if they're in a deeper sleep, it'll be like more, it won't be as easy for them to wake up. It'll be harsher, like you just go in like 20 minutes, go in and start rustling around, maybe open the curtains and, just when they get to into those lighter sleep cycle, then they'll wake up, you know, in a way that is less, stressful or whatever.
Yeah, no one likes it when the alarm goes off.
The way that I think about that is from working with you. That's totally from that.
Great. Well, I'm glad.
So that's funny that it's just when you learn. Yeah, I think when you just learn about what is normal, even like just the sleep cycle thing and the melatonin and these organizing the day, it was absolutely life-changing. And it had so much more to do with me learning than anything that had to do with what we had to do with them.
Yeah.
Really, the bulk of the work was educating, the parents.
Definitely. That's 99% of what I do is looking at, educating the parents and giving them the tools that they need to be able to work with their child and to comfortably do so. Because that's the thing, sleep consultants, we get, such a bad rap that it's all kind of, it's going to be cried out and it's going to be harsh.
Well, yeah, some of them are really dragging, some of them really, really give you a bad name. Some of them are really, they're not making it easy for you.
Oh, definitely. But, I just sort of keep thinking, when I first started, I've been doing this for a million years. And when I first started, what was it like? Must be 14, 15 years ago now. I started my business doing this. I was one of two children's sleep consultants on the West Coast. There was one other, and she was in LA. And then there was me in Seattle. And that was it. That was it. There were more on the East Coast, but that was it for the West Coast. There was two of us. And I'm really glad that there's more and more. But it's just a bit hey, no, no.
Stop doing that.
No, don't do it that way. Don't do it that way.
Yeah. So anybody who is hearing this, if you are in need of a sleep consultant, look no further. Do not Google. Do not go into your mommy Facebook groups and ask for whatever. You have a person. I'm vouching for this person as a sort of colleague, I guess, in the world of working with parents, but also as a former client. And so thank you so much for all of the insight that you brought us today. And I'm sure that, as time goes on, I'll have more questions, and maybe you can come back in 2022 and talk to us more.
Yeah, I'd love to.
About sleep.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So you can find me kind of everywhere. My website is childrensleepconsultant.com. So you can find me there, and there's many different ways that we can work together, either privately. I also have a membership site. All the ways that we work together are all the same. We're super gentle, super compassionate and loving ways of working together. But you can also then find me on Facebook. So just look for Rebecca Michi Children's Sleep Consultant. I have a Facebook group where I do sort of a little mini masterclass every week. Again, looking real kind of realistic sleep expectations. And this is the little mini masterclasses are more of that education on looking at what's normal when it comes to when can I expect my child to sleep through the night, and just looking at really kind of normal things. There's lots of education there. So make sure you join the Facebook group, because there's a lot of good stuff happening in the Facebook group right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Now that's a Facebook group that you can be in. Safely be in.
Yes, definitely. There's nobody's going to be advising you to leave your kiddo to cry it out there. It's definitely more compassionate, supportive environment.
And we will put, if you are kind of lost right now and scrambling to write any of this down, don't worry, go to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, and we will put all of the links to all of these things in the show notes for you, so you can easily find it. And thank you so much, Rebecca. It was so wonderful talking to you. And thanks for, telling us what's normal and not normal. And hopefully everyone gets a little stressful night's sleep tonight.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is a great end to have. One of the best pieces of parenting advice I was ever given was when my youngest was just probably like a month old. And what I was told that I was really struggling with night times, beginning of the nights, really struggling. And somebody said to me, it's not always going to be like this. Just this is how it is right now, and just accept it. But it won't always be like this. And once I really started thinking about that, it just felt so different. And so, if you're struggling with sleep right now, this is what it's like right now, but it will all change. I guarantee it's all going to change. So just try to just sort of remember that. I'm not going to say you've got to love it and embrace it, but just remember that it won't always be this way.
I think that's such an important thing. And we do say that often, there's so many phases and stages and stuff as you go, that if you are hating what's going on right now, it will change.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
You're welcome. It's great to speak with you.
You too.